Football is back in the Motor City with training camp in full swing for your Detroit Lions. The question becomes, how bright is the forecast for this season's team? Mike Payton, editor of Sidelion.com, joined me this afternoon to answer that very question. So first of all, Mike, we welcome you to the Two-Man Advantage podcast and want to thank you for taking part of your afternoon to talk Lions football with us.
Thank you.
So Mike, before Ndamukong Suh decided to bolt for South Beach, it was the anchor of the league's number 2 ranked defense. Now with him gone and the Lions also losing their top 3 defensive tackles, how do you think they'll replenish that void with Haloti Ngata and a bunch of other role players?
Well, I think, it's all speculation at this point, obviously, but Haloti Ngata comes in. He's a tremendous run stopper. Some would say he might even be a little bit better than Suh in that aspect. I think that he's going to be the leader, the number 1 guy on this line that's going to kind of get everybody else ready to go. It's a fairly young line with guys like Walker and Gabe Wright and Karan Reed. There's a lot of question marks there. You got to wonder if they're going to be ready to go. I know that Tyrone Walker graded out pretty high on Pro Football Focus for pass rushing, a little bit higher than Nick Fairley actually did in 2014, and he's also a much healthier option. So I think what the Lions got there was definitely something that they can work with. But once again, it's all going to rely on whether or not he can step up for 16 games a season as a starter. I think also, as far as the young guys go, I'm looking at Karan Reed at this time. I think that he's going to be kind of like a Ziggy Ansah in a way. He has the kind of the intangibles and raw talent that can come out and do good things in the NFL. He's also very smart, being a former Princeton guy. I think that you'll see some breakout from him this year.
And in terms of the Lions dodging another bullet on defense, obviously Terrell Austin interviewed for some head coaching positions and didn't get them. How much of a benefit do you think it'll be for the Lions defense to have him back on the sideline?
Well, it's undoubtedly a huge benefit. Even with Suh and Fairley, all those years, the Lions had trouble getting any higher than ranked 10th in defense in the NFL. Terrell Austin comes along and kind of changes everything, changes the sets and changes how we line up and everything, and we shoot up to number 2. I think what you'll see from the Lions this year is Austin knows the personnel. He knows what to do to get the best out of them. I think that he's going to be a tremendous asset to the Lions in 2015. But I don't see him being in Detroit beyond this year. I think he'll be a head coach next year for sure.
And in terms of switching sides of the ball, the Lions tied for their second best franchise record with an 11-5 record. But as we saw with the Lions offense, they were sort of middle of the pack, and they suffered through what I like to call a failure to launch at some points last year. So how much do you think it'll be important for Matthew Stafford to take the next step? And what do you think is the key for the Lions offense as a whole to be more effective?
Well, to be more effective, they've got to get the scheme down. You were in year 2 of Lombardi's scheme. I've talked to Golden Tate recently, and the way he's explained it to me is it's a night and day difference than it was last year. They've kind of got the offense down. Now they're working on the particulars and working on the details to get it right. As far as Matthew Stafford, to me, I've always looked at Stafford in a different way. When Caldwell showed up, to me, it seemed as though Matthew Stafford had never really known how to play quarterback in the NFL. So I think he's been kind of getting by on luck and raw talent since his rookie year. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But Caldwell has a proven track record of working with guys like Peyton Manning and improving their careers. And Peyton Manning was a guy that, much like Stafford, had a lot of questions early on in his career. And for Matthew Stafford, I've always looked at Stafford in a different way. To me, Stafford was learning how to play the pro game in 2014. I think that he's been getting by on luck and raw talent all this time. Never really had a quarterback coach or quarterback whisperer, if you will, come in and kind of teach him how to do things. So it seemed to me that Caldwell and his staff came in and took Stafford apart, ripped out all the wires, and put them back together, but with handcuffs. So what you kind of got last year was a fearful quarterback. Matthew Stafford feared so much of making mistakes that at certain points it was almost to a fault. The offense, as far as Lombardi goes, he is open to letting Stafford take more risks this year. So I think you'll see kind of a 2011, 2012 Matthew Stafford, but a much more controlled version. I don't think that you'll ever see 5,000 yards out of him again. I think it was probably an anomaly. But yeah, I think Stafford is the key to this offense, and he's definitely going to have to step up in year 2 and continue to bring up his completion percentage and drop those interception percentages.
And in terms of Eric Ebron, obviously it was the first round tight end taken in the top 10 since Vernon Davis in 2006. And the Lions have invested a lot of money in this position. But how much do you think it's important for Ebron to find some level of consistency, considering how much the Lions expect from him as a player?
Oh, it's very important. Obviously, Ebron's kind of a rare thing, a first-round tight end, especially that high in the draft. It's kind of a rarity these days. Ebron really showed last year that he's just like any other rookie tight end. Most are going to have a lot of problems. It's one of the hardest positions to translate into the NFL from college. And Ebron, from what I've seen this offseason, Ebron has taken it to heart. He's been humbled by last year after the change in his Twitter account to pass catcher, and maybe looking a little cocky. But this year, he seems a lot more humbled. Seems like he's going to be working very hard. I think he's going to become a much bigger part of the offense. I still wouldn't expect any Pro Bowl type of production from him in second year, but I would say probably around 400 to 600 yards, 4 to 5 touchdowns, and that would be just fine with the Detroit Lions.
Now, in terms of the overall position, obviously the Lions have put a lot of money into that position because Lombardi likes to use 2 tight ends. So do you think we'll see an increase of the use of the tight end this year in the Lions offense?
I think that you'll, well, they've definitely already gone out and said that they plan on using Brandon Pettigrew in a more receiving type role. So I think you'll definitely see the two tight end sets. It works. It works to their advantage because Pettigrew, he has shown in the past that he's a great blocker. He's definitely declined as far as receiving goes. But he can block and he can he can definitely help set the table for Ebron. And as far as Fourier goes, I think you'll see a lot of him in the red zone. Putting Ebron and Fourier on two tight end sets in the red zone, it's kind of a matchup nightmare. I mean, they're so tall they can high point the ball. Who do you guard?
Mm-hmm. And can you tell me, with camp just starting yesterday, what are some of the key position battles you'll be keeping an eye on close in camp? Would it be the nickelback, considering the Lions have a lot of corners, or would it be another position that you'll be keeping your eye on as well?
Well, certainly nickel slot is going to be something that everyone's going to have their eyes on. It's kind of down to Quandre Diggs or Josh Wilson or Nevin Lawson at this point. I think that's going to be a very entertaining battle to watch. But for me personally, I am all about who's going to be the number 3 wide receiver. There seems to be a stockpile of wide receivers there. Mediocre maybe, but one of them has to show up in camp and prove that they can come out and be the third guy. At this point, I'd have to go with Lance Moore. He knows the system. He's a veteran. I think that he could definitely help the Lions offensive-wise. And then another one, Zach Zenner versus George Wynn, I think will be a very entertaining camp battle to watch because you're looking at two guys, they want to make the roster. Zenner obviously comes in with a lot of hype, running for 2,000 yards multiple times in college. But George Wynn, he's a veteran. He's been on the team for a while. I think he's going to put up a heck of a fight.
And obviously the Lions seem to be taking a page out of the book of the Dallas Cowboys and rebuilding their offensive line. It's one of the youngest in the league, and they obviously devoted a first-round resource in taking Laken Tomlinson out of Duke. So I'm wondering your initial impressions of the Lions' mandate to rework their offensive line.
Well, the Lions are certainly going to live and die by their offensive line this year. Giving up 45 sacks last year, it was obvious that things needed to change, and the Lions went out and did that. Going to get Laken Tomlinson in the first round, as you mentioned, and also trading for Manny Rodriguez Manny Ramirez.
Ramirez, yeah.
Yeah, is certainly another move that is going to help the Lions, considering going into the draft they only had one guard at the time. But the thing that I think is going to be a potential concern is the youth. While that is a good thing, as you mentioned, you have to wonder if guys like Tomlinson and Travis Swanson are going to be able to take on that larger role right away in such a young time in their career.
And could you just give me your initial impressions of what the Lions did in the draft and which players they drafted in this year's draft have to step up for them to have a successful season?
Which players need to step up in this year's draft?
Yes.
Okay. I think obviously Laken Tomlinson is going to have to step up. Being on the interior, it's going to be a big role for him, kind of blocking for the run game, and attached to that, Amir Abdullah is going to have to show what he can do in the NFL. To me, he's kind of like a Javad Best, Reggie Bush combination. You see he's great in space, but doesn't dance around like Reggie does. I think that he's going to have to step up for the Lions, and actually their whole run game is going to have to step up for the Lions because, they have never been ranked above 17th in the league since Barry Sanders retired, and you can see that in their records.
And when you look at the last time the Lions won a championship in 1957. Obviously, the Super Bowl wasn't around then, but it hasn't stopped the Lions from with their big predictions on making the Super Bowl. I'm wondering if you can tell me if that's a realistic expectation for them, or is it just training camp talk at this point?
Well, I think every team comes in with the mentality of we want to win the Super Bowl and we can do it every year. What I've seen thus far is it appears to be the young guys, and I can't blame them. If I were just joining the NFL, I would think that we were ready to go too. The Lions, like I said, they're going to have to put everything together in 2015 to make this prediction come true, and a lot of things are going to have to fall the right way. But no, I think that confidence is a good thing, and it's definitely going to help all the guys bond together if they have a goal.
And when you look at the Lions in the overall division, with the return of Adrian Peterson, the addition of John Fox in Chicago, and obviously the dominant play of the Packers, where do you see the Lions stacking up in this division as a whole?
I think the Lions are going to go back to being that second place spot in the NFC North. Obviously, the Packers are just too much at this point in their offense. They seem to improve through the draft in the offseason. Minnesota is definitely going to be a good team, I think, in a few years, but at the moment they're quite green. They've got a second-year quarterback that could go through a sophomore slump. I know Adrian Peterson's back, but he's at the age of 30. Is that the time to cut off? I mean, is he going to be the same Adrian Peterson that we've seen over the years? And the Bears are obviously going through a rebuilding program right now, and John Fox, I think, is going to help retool that team and kind of bring them back to prominence. But at the moment, I'd have to say that the Detroit Lions are right on pace to keep that second spot in the NFC North. Still quite a talented roster, very deep. For them is going to be to try to win in Wisconsin this year, which has not been
hasn't been their strong suit.
No.
And when you look at Jim Caldwell, obviously he brought an increased level of expectation to this group. I'm wondering if you could tell me what you think his imprint or his mark has been on this team the year and a half he's been here to make them so successful.
I would have to say change in culture is the biggest thing. Nate Burleson did an interview with NFL.com not too long ago where he kind of specified that when he came in to talk with everyone that it was like he had never been there before, and the whole culture of the entire franchise has changed into a more professional setting. They expect to win, and now that's all because of Caldwell. He's approached these guys like men and like professionals, and I think that he's gained their respect, and because of that, the players have bought into that system, and that will be ultimately what Caldwell will be remembered for. Even if he can't get the job done, I think that changing culture in Detroit will help them get to that next level.
And when you look at some of the Lions' toughest position battle decisions, what do you think those will come this year as they head into the season?
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
In terms of tough cuts the Lions will have to make in the end of training camp, what positions do you think they'll have the hardest decisions to make as they head into the season?
Well, to go back to tight end, I personally have a hard time seeing Brandon Pettigrew making the Detroit Lions 53-man roster. At this, the decline has been quite strong. Last year, he had 10 receptions, 70 yards. That's quite a decline. I don't think that his blocking prowess can be used as an excuse any longer. I've already looked into trades with the Ravens and the Texans on getting Pettigrew out of here. I just cannot see him making the 53-man roster. Now, I don't know if that means they're going to go with someone younger through free agency, or if they're going to go with somebody like a Zach Miller, veteran free agent tight end. But I think that at this point, somebody could come in and do what Pettigrew can do, and maybe a little bit better. I think it's not going to be a popular decision with the fans to let Pettigrew go, but I think that his time in Detroit is pretty much up.
And in terms of when you look at the Lions as an overall squad, for you, what will define success for the Lions this year?
I have to go back and say again, this is a team that, and to go back to your previous question about the Super Bowl prediction, this is a team that obviously believes in itself and expects to win and win now. I think that is what's going to get the team through 2015. They definitely have a hard schedule to start with Seattle and Denver and San Diego. But I think the culture is what's going to get them through that tough start. And if they can start 2-2 or 3-1, I think they're going to have a heck of a season. But it's all going to depend on how they believe, and if they can kind of get together and continue this Detroit versus everybody movement that's been going on as of late.
Well, Mike, we want to thank you for your time and for joining us this afternoon to talk some Detroit Lions football on the Two Man Advantage podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin.